Hi guys, welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to learn how to use test containers. Alright, so let's go to our POM XML and see what are the required dependency. So for this demo, I'm going to show you how to use test container for our database. By the way, why do we need test container? Actually, this is an alternative to embedded container or in-memory database. As you can see in my previous tutorial, I've been using H2. H2 is an in-memory database that we normally use that in our JUnit testing. Yeah. So if we don't want to use in-memory database, for example, we want to simulate, we want to use the actual database, like for example, Postgre, because in production, actually we use we use a non in-memory DB, which is RDBMS like Postgre, right? So test containers allow us to use RDBMS DB instead of in-memory DB like H2. Okay, so these are the required dependencies. First, of course, we are going to use Postgre database, so we need this, of course, we need this driver. Then I want to show also how to use the JDBC API, so we're going to use this dependency also. Then of course the JPA I'm going to use in this demo, so we need this. But for test container library, we need all this. Before that, we also need the JUnit library, so we include this Spring Boot starter test for the JUnit. For the test containers, we need this Spring Boot test containers, and for to communicate the test container with our JUnit, we need this JUnit-Jupyter. And for the Postgre, because we're going to use a test container for Postgre, so we need also this. All right. Then Lombok because I don't want to create a getter and setter method. So yeah, that's the use of this Lombok. All right. So for the application properties, I think we don't need anything. So let's go directly to our test class. So for this JDBC test, I'm going to show you how to use this JDBC template. Alright, so as you can see, we don't need any configuration here. But of course, in real world, we need to configure this data source, right? But in our test class, I override this. But of course, in real world, we define this in our application properties. I just did not put it because we're going to override it anyway in this test class, right? So first, we have this test container annotation. But by the way, this test container annotation requires Docker. Later, I'll show you the error if we don't have the Docker. It's a prerequisite actually if we use test container, right? So now here we create a Postgre container. This is a container for our Postgre, okay? Then we need a JDBC template. This JDBC template is an API so we can retrieve some metadata from our RDBMS, which is Postgre. All right. So this is the configuration. The configuration for our data source. the value for the configuration, we get it from the war Postgre container, from this container, right? That's why we call the method from this container to set out to override the data source configuration, right? Then after configuring, take note the credential and the details for our data source, I got it from our Postgre container, which is this one. Then after we configure it, we can use we can already how do you say, we can already retrieve some metadata from our PostgreSQL DB, okay, using this API, right? So this should return if you read the tables when you create a when you set up a Postgre database. By default, it has a system. The DB creates some tables. The system tables are actually, the total system tables are 68. That's why I have assert equals here. Alright, so these are the default number of tables. These are all system tables actually. Alright, so let's verify them. We run this test case. As you can see here, I do not have I mean my Docker is down. That's why we get error like this. As I said earlier, this test container requires Docker. So now my Docker is down. So when the Docker is down, we get error like this. See, could not find a valid Docker environment. So now let me bring up the Docker, my Docker. I will start it. Now it's starting. So when it's starting, I will run it again and see. We should be this test case should pass, because we should be able to use this API, JDBC API, to retrieve the metadata or the table counts from our PostgreDB. All right. So yeah, it's still starting. Let's wait a bit. Take it some time. By the way, this test container is very powerful. It's not only applicable in our DB. We can also use this. For example, we want to have a messaging system, like for example Kafka. We can create an Kafka container, also something like this, and use that Kafka container to do our testing, local testing. But then again, it requires also Docker. All right. So all that's the prerequisite of test container, Docker. We need to have a Docker in our machine. Without Docker in our machine, we cannot use test container. But this test container is very powerful because it simulate it's something close when we test our DB environment or Kafka, whatever. It's very close to production environment, because you see previously, we cannot, without this test containers, we cannot use Postgre locally, right? So only test containers allow that. That's why before, when test container is not yet available, we use in-memory DB like H2 to do our testing. And for Kafka, we use Kafka, embedded Kafka. instead of test container. Okay, I'm not sure why it's taking so long. Let me test it again. Docker, yes. Maybe I'm running out of memory. Let me quit again my Docker. Maybe need to restart or something. Anyway, while waiting for our Docker, I will explain the other test class. This time, we're going to test the repository API. You know, the JPA, the normal, when we do the Spring Data, we normally use the JPA, right? Something like this. So that's, we use repository annotation. All right. So this is the simple example of Spring Data. All right. So when we want to test this using test container, it's the same thing. We use we annotate it using test containers. Then use data JPA test annotation. Actually, we can also use Spring Boot test annotation, but that one is very heavy. If we want only to test the repository API, we can simply use data JPA test annotation. Then the same, we auto configure test database. We just pass this parameter. We don't we can just copy and paste. Then for this, because we don't we do not have a schema yet or tables, that's why we have this configuration. So the framework will auto generate the tables automatically. Okay. Then same as the previous one, we create an instance of the Postgre container like this. Then this is the one we want to test. We auto wired it. So this is the actual instance of our repository API. Then again, the configuration, normally we define this in our application properties, but since this is a local test, so we override whatever we define in our application properties. We will override here. So we set the URL, data source URL, and the data source credential. All right. The values we get from our container, Postgre container here. Again, this container, it has a dependency. It requires a Docker. Oh, our Docker is not yet starting. There is some issue with our Docker. So it's starting again. So once okay, these are the required annotations. Okay, once we configure it here, we can test it already. All right, so it's starting already. So let me go back first to our JDBC. This JDBC template will read the metadata information, like the count, the number of tables in our PostgreDB, which is 68, right? So let me verify this. Okay. Actually, at first it will take some time because it will create the container, but yeah, the second time around it will become very fast because it will cache, the system will cache it. Okay, so this is our database. No, sorry, this is our JDBC template. So the configuration of our JDBC template is based on our container, this Postgre container. Alright, let me check some details here. See, this is the data source. Alright. Yeah, this is the driver class, the Postgre driver. This is the one we set here, the URL. Take note, the URL is from our container, Postgre container, provided by our test container. Okay, all right. So let's go and verify. Resume tables. Yeah, 68. It's correct. So it's the first test class is passing. Right. Let's go to our repository. The repository is actually the same thing. The only difference is we use here in our JDBC template. We use JDBC test annotation, right? But as you can see here, instead of JDBC test, we use data JPA test, right? So yeah, why? Because this is for Spring data, because of this Spring repository, right? The other one is using JDBC template. That's why we use JDBC test. But the rest is the same. But here I added this property because we do not have the customer table, so we want the framework to create it for us. All right, that's why we have this Spring JPA Hibernate DDL dash auto. All right, so okay, so the rest are the same. We create an instance of Postgre container. Then this is the one we want to test, the repository API. Then this is the configuration. Our configuration is we basically configure our data source, and the value is coming from our container, our test container, which is this Postgre. All right, let's test our repository now. So what we do here is we save a record, one record, one customer record. After saving it, we will retrieve it, and by right, if it's successfully saved, we should be able to retrieve it, right? So once we retrieve it, we verify the result. It should be equal to hello world. Why? Because hello world is the one we saved here. All right, so let's verify. Alright, so it's still starting. So now we're saving this. Let's resume. Okay, it's saved already. So how do we know if it's saved already? We retrieve again using the find all. Alright, so this is the record we retrieved. Let's check the result. Message is hello world. All right, so we successfully retrieve it from the database. The database is residing, or basically our database is in our test container, right? Which is it's in our Docker, right? All right, so thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you learn again an interesting topic. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.